Moving to this now. More and more South Africans are now shopping online. According to the Online Retail in South Africa report, sales grew by 30% in 2022 to surpass by 50 billion rand milestone. Analysts are seeing e-commerce sales rise even more to catch up with global trends. Let's speak now to Andy Higgins. He's the Managing Director of the Bob Group. Andy, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. So with online retail expected to double its market share in the coming years, what key strategies do you believe will drive this acceleration, particularly in the South African market?
Yeah, so typically South Africa has really lagged the rest of the world, even if you compare us to our emerging market counterparts like India and Brazil and other Southeast Asian countries. So it's really just a case of catch-up for us. I think largely things like data connectivity and payments we have that sort of infrastructure in place, but I think where we've been lacking up until now is predominantly in the logistics area. So I think we're going to see some developments happening there, and as logistics sort of becomes more developed for e-commerce and reachable to the sort of greater population of South Africa, I really believe we will see those South Africa catching up to the rest of the world when it comes to e-commerce.
So, Andy, the shift from physical shops to online stores and apps has also been very significant. How can businesses then capitalize on this change in consumer behavior to really enhance their e-commerce offerings?
Well, I think first and foremost they just need to get their products online so that it's available for people. And I think you touched on a very important point there, apps, which is typically associated with mobile. So we've seen certainly from the numbers that we're seeing people come online much more from a mobile point of view. So even if they don't do so from a traditional desktop computer or even tablet point of view, people are more and more trusting online and using their mobile device to do so. So, like I said, South African traditional retail has typically lagged the rest of the world. So I think we are seeing that change now, and I think that's probably going to have the biggest impact when sort of big retail adopts it, and that is what they're doing. And the other factor that's, I think, going to play a big role is we've seen Amazon announce, it's one of the worst kept secrets, that they are launching their own marketplace, a local marketplace in South Africa. Yeah. And I think that's going to assist to help give consumers more confidence and improve that sort of trust factor, which is critical when it comes to online e-commerce as well.
So also interesting is that cross-border e-commerce saw a surge in 2023. What factors contributed to this trend, and how can businesses adapt to meet the demands of international customers while also maintaining a seamless shopping experience?
I think local retailers are actually feel a bit threatened by this surge in cross-border commerce. It's definitely, I believe it's predominantly driven by price. It's super cheap. Some of the offerings that you can get predominantly coming directly from China through websites like Shein, or now Timo's launched as well, AliExpress. I think this is both an opportunity and a threat. It's a bit of a threat because of the pricing, and also these cross-border retailers are not subjected to the same local laws, so things like the Consumer Protection Act, and even there are some sort of older import when it comes to excise duties and other taxes that are involved, that often, if it's a very low-valued transaction, these fall under the radar, whereas large retailers have to adhere to all those laws, and as it stands at the moment, some of these cross-border retailers are not subjected to those same laws. So it's a great opportunity for consumers to get great pricing, but then they also have the risk of not being protected if something does go wrong with their transaction.
So, Andy, the use of lockers for e-commerce deliveries has also increased, and one would know it is a common sight at most shopping centers. Could you elaborate on the advantages of this approach for both retailers and consumers, and how Bob Group is facilitating this delivery method?
Yeah, so for us, we're very excited about it. It's nothing new, especially in Europe and in Asia, where in some countries it's the most widely used form of deliveries. I think first and foremost it's because of the cost. It's generally a cheaper option because it's consolidated, so the courier doesn't have to go from a door-to-door on a delivery point of view and have missed deliveries and have to deal with security issues and that sort of thing. It's also more convenient for customers because they can work around it as long as it's sort of within their daily routine. If it's nearby a locker where they can go and stop by and go and fetch it, so it gives the consumer more flexibility. And from a retailer point of view, more cost effective, and it's also, I think in South Africa's context, it's one of the big advantages is for people who don't necessarily have a well-structured home address. I'm talking about people in more rural areas or even in townships where it's not very structured addresses, and people who don't perhaps have a fixed place of work, who might be more sort of not work from an office. They can then manage these collections on their own terms. So there's a lot of benefits all around.
So Andy, as consumer expectations rise, what role do you see technology playing in really improving the e-commerce experience, particularly in areas such as product imagery, content, and even shipping logistics?
Yeah, so obviously the big buzzword now is AI. How's artificial intelligence going to impact all of this? And I think it certainly is going to play a role. We believe things like with the transition to more sustainable energy, we think we're going to see more and more EVs, electric vehicles, play a role, and then the automation of that. I personally believe it's going to we're going to first see that in what we'd call the long haul. So for example, where from a logistics point of view, we have to move freight between, say, Johannesburg and Cape Town. I think in the not too distant future, we're going to be able to see electric vehicles, potentially autonomous electric vehicles, handling that side of it. I think it's going to take a bit longer. A lot of hype around things like drone deliveries and things like that. I think that's going to take a lot longer. But certainly I think we're going to see a shift in seeing technology play a bigger role in the logistics side for sure. Right. Yeah.
As we conclude our insightful discussion with Andy Higgins, the Managing Director of Bob Group, we've gained valuable insights into the growth opportunities and emerging trends in the dynamic world of e-commerce. He's been telling us a bit more about some of the advancements in this particular area.